Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen, friends and cinema lovers. So it's so great to see here in Kerala so wonderful cinema theater, and the people, they are staying in the line to watch the cinema, not only Indians, also for around the world. It's so great and so amazing. Thank you very much for invitation and to be here. Thank you.
To start with, so we'll talk for 30-40 minutes and then I'll open the floor to the audience Q&A. Can you talk to us briefly about your childhood and growing up in Georgia and how you came into contact with films and filmmaking later on?
It was from my childhood. I like the cinema, and I was watching all the films that are coming in Georgian cinema theater, and we have some very small cinema theater. There was showing us not official cinemas. There was buying from Soviet Union. In Soviet country, it was many films forbidden, and we don't have a possibility. It was very close country. The closing, and we don't have a possibility to go and see the world cinema, but we have some very small possibility to show them. So I have been every evening in the cinema, at the cinema theater, and I was watching all the films. It was for children or not for children, it was the same, And I wanted to be film director. I like to make a film, but in Georgia was not cinema institute. It was just in Soviet Union. It was a center. It was in Moscow, and I don't go to Moscow to study. And I go in Academy of Art to study architecture. So, and I'm architect with my first prophecy. But after in Georgian was opened the cinema university, and I go to study there the second time to study in university. So, and the cinema, the film, it's not my prophecy. It's my style of life. It's all that's I want to do in my life, every moment, every day. If I don't have a possibility to shoot the films, I read the scripts. Sometimes some directors invite me to play in his films, and I'm happy to do this. Sometimes I produce the small documentaries or small feature films. And but I'm all the time. Sometimes I'm set designer and costume designers. All the prophecy, for me, it's very important because I'm in a film all the time. It's really very important for me to be in this life, in cinema life.
And this is something that I want to ask you. Your films do deal with the impact of growing up in Soviet Georgia, especially in the transitional period of late 80s and early 90s. Can you talk a little bit about how that impacted the theme of your films?
In Georgian, we really don't have the women have not the special problems. We have the same problem like the men in the cinema, not only in the cinema, in different prophecies, but and in Georgia, one of the first film in Georgia there was made in 1906 or 7, it was a woman. Yes, one of the first cinematographer, film director was a woman in Georgia. So, and it's traditionally so many film director women we have in the cinema until today. Very, very interesting, talented young generation. And very interesting, it's this many women are in a document film. They make documentaries, you know, also featured, but in document films, they are so interesting a view of a woman. So, and we have a really good, interesting young generation, and women and men. So, it's a film. It's so traditionally loved in Georgia. This very cinematographic country, a very small country, very, very small. We're just 3.5 million. That's it. It's our Georgian population, very small. And in 5 hours, you can drive from one border to the other, to the next border. It's a sea, and you can drive 4 hours from north to east. It's a very small, but in this small country you can find and wonderful sea and beach, and in 2 hours you are in the mountains with snow, and you can be snowboard, and so, and we have a desert, and also this very middle climate. So we have our winter. It's something around 5-6 plus 5-6 degrees. It's the coldest winter for us, and summer it's also very hot, something between 35-40 degrees. Yes, and
to go to your films, one of the narrative tools that you use in films like Robinsonada and A Chef in Love, which played here at the 29th IFFK, it's about a foreigner coming to Georgia and falling in love with the countryside and the people. Is that something that you set out to do when you started making these films, that you wanted Georgia to be seen by the rest of the world? So you have a foreigner character coming into the country and meeting these people or learning about the country. Is that something that you intentionally try to do with your films?
Historically, Georgian has a big contact and conversation and contact with the European countries. This from the old time until the Argonauts, the Greek Argonauts, it's with Greeks, and after later with France and Great Britain, and the contacts are mostly with European countries, and like today we feel as like a part of European Union, but we have a big problem with our government today. Because we think our country, our people think that it's not a government, it's a mafia. And they looks on the money, and money comes from Russia, and it's very difficult for us to accept this moment and this situation, because during the Soviet Union it was 15 republics. All republics was different countries with different languages, past history, culturally there was different, and it was occupied from the Red Army, and they became a Soviet Union was like a big prison for us. It was closed. We cannot go outside and to have a contact, but it was just during the Soviet Union, they occupied also independent Georgian Republic. And now after the Soviet Union collapsed, I'm so sorry, but our neighbors from north, they want to go back to Soviet Union, and we don't want to do this. We feel as part of European Union. So, and we have a big conflict until today in our country.
I would like to touch upon the surrealism and magic realism love that you have in all your films. They seem to be happening in very realist settings, but there is always something magical going on, something related to fantasy going on. Like in Chef in Love, you have in the train scene, he asks him to go out, and then suddenly he has a meal ready. And in 27 Missing Kisses, you have this huge boat, and there is a military firing away. These things have a very surreal magic realism aspect to it. Can you talk about your love for magic realism?
Yes, I like all my life it's magic realism, not only film, and I liked in literature this style of magic realism. It's so close for me. Sometimes I really cannot find a border between a real life and my imagination. And you know, sometimes my imagination and my thinking, it's more realism for me than real life. Yeah, it's my favorite style of literature and cinema, and so I cannot be very. Also in documentary, I make many documentary films. Also in documentaries, I have been not so real. I always try to see some magicness in this reality, because I think the film without some secret, without some magicness, I cannot make this see this life. I try to find, excuse my English, it's not so well, but I try to
it's fine.
tell
it's
you
good.
what I'm thinking about. Yes.
And can you expand on the themes of a Chef in Love? Like it happens between 1918 and 1921, when the independent Georgia was taken over by the Bolsheviks, and there is a slight criticism of the kind of communism.
All my films has something with reality. In real stories, it's because in the ground, I mean the stories, it's always something real. Because in Chef in Love, in 27 Missing Kisses, in Robinsonade, in my Lorelei or my Rainbow Maker, in all my films, it's something from my biography or my parents, the history of my parents or grandparents, or my neighbors or my friends. Always it's something real, and it was many things was real in Chef in Love, in 27 Missing Kisses, in Robinsonade, the ground. For example, why I make a film in Robinsonade? I have been on the beach. It's a wonderful small city. He calls Batumi. And I have been in cemetery. I just walk on the old cemetery. It's very nice. So, and I see it was written Christopher Hughes and the date. And he was coming before revolution in independent Georgia. He died during the communists are coming, the Red Army are coming. Okay, I'm thinking, okay, it's something here interesting. and I go to, uh, I don't know, imagine some, and you know, it was a London, Delhi telegraph linear. It goes through the Georgian, via Georgian. It was, London, Georgian, Delhi. It was a line, and I find our this telegraph. What calls this? That telegraph.
The pole, yeah.
What?
The pole, yeah.
Yeah, and it staying here. The telegraph line from London to Delhi. Until today we have this 3 or 4 like historical. So I think, God, so I must do this, do a film about this guy, how he comes, this British guy, how he comes to Georgian, and what's happened with him, why he's died. And I remember some stories from my grandparents or neighbors and about this telegraphist. So, and the story in the film comes in the life. The same was with the Chef in Love, because really it's many things, many scenes from my grandmother's stories, in the film. And it was really the French cuisinier that come to Georgian and opened the French restaurant. And he was with my grandmother. So they know each other. It was many real things in these things. Sometimes, some it's of course fantasy, but some lines it's very real in all my films. They became from real stories. For example, also the Robinsonade was I have been to find some location, in villages to shoot the film, and it's not typical for Georgia. So the line, the horizon, it's always with the mountain, because it's their mountain country. And once I see this line, horizon, and cow, it's coming on the horizon, and the old woman takes on the what's the cow's this wood, huh? Tail, yes. And she comes after the cows. It was a so fantastic picture, Wow, I say. I ran to this woman and I say, "Hi, excuse me, do you want to be in my film?" I don't have one idea before this moments. I don't have some role for this old woman, but I like this picture. And she told me, and she was like this. What you wanna? I understood. She's blind. Okay. And the cow was her this.
It's what you're saying
yes.
to, okay.
Yeah, guide. And she told me, "Oh, you wanna film me? I'm 96 years old, and you wanna make me nice?" God, I say, "Yes, my dear." And I go back. I filmed her all this day. I forget all my locations. I just was with this woman. She was singing for me. She was telling me the stories, and I go to home, and so all the day I was filming this woman. After I go back to studio to Tbilisi, and I say, "This is my main character." In the studio, the redactors and directors, they say me, "Yes, but you don't have an old woman in your film." No, until today I have it. So, and I think about how I can connect this woman so with the young persons, the characters, the girl. This really was a character in the film. So in 1 week I want to go to shoot, and this woman is died. So, and I have just this material. This I shoot during this one day, this small part of thinking. And I edit the film with these small pieces, And now she becomes, in this Robinson, the main character. It's, this old woman, she remember, it's a young woman and the old woman, they are one of the same characters, yes. So this is always, I like this improvisation during the shooting, all the time it's improvisation. Sometimes I think, God, yes, in script it's I must shoot the next scene, but I have a 2 days shooting. I must follow them. They are on the screening, and this scene, I have in the script, it's not right. And I go to improvisation, the next one,
Yeah.
All the films is improvisation. So
I would like to ask you about this dialogue from A Chef in Love, when the chef is arrested by the Bolsheviks when they initiate the coup. They think that he will leave, but he doesn't leave. He stays back in Georgia. And there is a very funny line that he says. He says, communism will disappear one day, but good cooking will never disappear.
Yes. He was right.
Can we expand on that and how it came to you?
You know how? I don't know how, because I think it's like this, all political situation, all politicals are coming and go away, but country, culture, good food, and our hope, it's
eternal,
forever. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the influences in your filmmaking? Like, what kind of filmmakers that you watched when you were growing up, and what to learn filmmaking? And I was wondering if the Czech New Wave was a influence on your cinema.
The first influence was Jean Vigo. Jean Vigo, this Atalanta. I like this film very much, and his short film Zero what means what's
Even Atalanta is pretty short, yeah.
Yes, I forget this name, this title. Jean Vigo was died in very young age, and he was 33 years old, and he makes just 3 films. One documentary, it's about Nice, this Zero for you're moving or something, and Atalanta. But I think he gives the road, the style, the influence for many directors, and mostly for my favorite Fellini. The Jean Vigo was his like a teacher.
I did read that Fellini was a fan of Georgian cinema.
Yes, the Fellini was my favorite director, and I met him in Cannes, and it was incredible. I have been on his shooting place, and after we met each other in Cannes, and it was a last Cannes in his life. After 6 months he died, but he makes my portrait. He drives me.
That's
and
amazing.
It's so funny, and I like it so much how Fellini drives me like a crazy. like this. And we was a wonderful conversation. You know, we was talking about our loneliness. It's so funny. He was so sad. This absolutely man like a firework was talking me about his
Loneliness.
loneliness. It was so yeah, and he was for me until today. I love his films very much. So, and I think it's one of big genie. But I like I cannot say you which film and directors I love more and less, because every 10 years, maybe 15 years, it's changing in a cinema, in a style, in a view, in its new waves. It's Italian, how it's in English?
Realism, neorealism.
Neorealism. It's in English. It's also neorealism, and in the France, in the German, new generation. So all this, in all this time and generation and film directors, I like so many films. Maybe it's not close to me, but I understand how great their films are. And of course, like the books, like the literature, I cannot say it's my favorite books, it's my favorite writer. Every time has for me, his favorite authors. So, and yeah, but I like magic realism. And I'm so sorry that I can nothing to do with this. Yeah.
I want to talk to you about present day Georgia, and there is a sort of, from what I read, it's very similar to a situation here too, that there is a culture war between tradition and the ambition to initiate itself into Europe and to be seen as a part of Europe and to be part of the European Union. It's been going on for such a long time. Do you have any thoughts on that, and how the people see the political situation and this sort of tradition versus new values debate?
We have a tradition. We keep tradition. In our culture, in our song, that's huge, something around 8 or 10,000 years. Because the wine was born in Georgia, it's a motherland of wine, the Georgian, because the first time the civil grapes and wine was coming in Georgia, and exactly in the same times we have songs. It's a polyphonic songs.
Polyphonic songs, yeah.
Because the Georgians are thinking, wine, it's not just part of drinking or something. No, it comes from, it's a very special part of our culture. And during the making wine, the Georgians are singing these polyphonic songs. They belong to wine, to God, to this culture time, and they're thinking, the wine, it's a fluence, like water. It's a
flows like water.
Flow thing, and this keeps. He can remember. He has a mind. He remembers this voice, these songs, these cultural things, and they make things indifferent. They mix they goes to the different level, you know. It's our thinking and our feeling. And yes, we keep tradition. Of course, not in our everyday life. It's impossible traditionally to live traditionally, but we keep it in our music, in our dance, in our sometimes the costumes and details, and some traditionally, for example, this conversation and links between man and woman, because woman was all the time very important in family, and in 12th centuries we have a king woman, and it was a golden time in Georgian, and the first excuse me, and the first our princess, our king woman, she is her name was Nana, and she in 327, it's 337 years, she brings like Christians, Orthodox Christians, like country religion, yeah, in Georgian. It was earlier, but in 327 it was officially Georgian religion. So until then, we're one of the first Christians land and Orthodox country in the world. So, and we have separate languages, separate letter, and it was a time this Georgian was twice and 3 times bigger, but now they cut it, and so until today, after Soviet Union collapse, something around 30% of our territories it's occupied from Russia. So, and of course, this big country, it's 140,000 million. What we can do with 3.5 million? Okay, nothing. Yeah. So yes.
Yeah, please go on. Yeah.
They need Georgian without Georgians. Yeah, and we are all the time in a fight.
You were saying
to stay in life.
You were saying you were always on the streets.
Of course, we are in the street. Now I am here, but all my family it's on the street. I go back, and of course, I come from the street, and I go back to the street, of course.
I wanted to ask you about the new Georgian cinema, which is really picking up. Like even here in the 29th IFFK, the Diya Kulumbekashvili's April is one of my favorite films, and there is Alexander Kobridze who is making great films. So Georgian film is really having a great last few years.
Yes, but you know, can you imagine? We have so small budget. And we make in a year 1 or 2 feature films, and these 1 or 2 feature films takes the many festivals and have a lot of prizes. If we have a possibility, a little bit more possibility to make, of course, okay, we don't have the money to make 10 films in a year, okay, but if we go to co-production, this is very important, to make co-production. Of course, and some European countries are very helpful, the France and the Germany and Holland, and they come in conversation, and we make some co-production with them. But it's so certain, it's not it's difficult. So we have a very big difficult. For example, my last film, it's a forced migration of butterflies. The title, it's Forced Migration of Butterflies. It was something around $125,000. That's it. It's so small budget for future
For a film, yeah.
for future films. Yes, it's 125. It's nothing. Yeah. Okay, but this, and we find the money from our friends, from maybe we find some banks or some rich people. They want to give some money to make the people, the documentaries. They have. It's a low budget. They are no budget films, mostly of them. But anyway, that's very interesting. It's interesting cinema. Yes.
I thought we can open to the audience. Is anyone having?
Your conversation was for me like as stimulant as a black coffee. Your conversation between you both is as stimulating as a black coffee. Because
Thank you.
okay, I am coming to that point. It is just like the polyphonic Georgian wine. Your talk was just like the polyphonic Georgian wine.
No, not polyphonic. Polyphonic song.
I mean that polyphonic song, as well as the polyphonic cultural overtones, the tones of that. And not only that, you mentioned that life is more stranger than magical realism. Somebody said that life is more strange than even science fiction. So the conditions prevailing in Georgia now, after the disintegration of USSR in 1989, is so horrific for you, because especially for Georgia, the severed relations, the intimate friends, all you lost because of the disintegration. That could be one of the reasons for the title 27 Missed Kisses from that bonding, I think so. So my question is regarding what is the present day Georgian conditions, unlike that of the single USSR. When you are part of the single USSR, how you now use, when you separated from the USSR, now you have a insulated identity only. What became your mind so horrific or so horror prone, or you are part of a magical realism? Is it the disintegration made your films magic realist? That is the big question.
You got the heat.
There are so many questions in the one question.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, thank you very much. I try to tell about. So, I mean, during the making wine, the people are singing because they think and they are agree this wine, it's hearing his voice, and these songs belong to them, to wine, and the wine, it's more handsome and more intelligent and better if he hears these wonderful polyphonic songs. And in a Georgian, it's a more than 527 different kind of grapes. Yeah, can I say like this? Yeah, different grapes, and every grapes gives different wine. And we have just a very, for example, we have a wine kind of wine they called, if I translate from Georgian, no-name wine. It's just a very small piece of this vineyard.
The wine vineyard, yeah.
And this wine you cannot have on the other place in Georgia, because only on this ground, because the ground is very important for wine, you know. So, and we have a more and more difficult and different kind of grapes and wine. But in a word, it's just five ground sort of wine, of grapes. This mix, they mix. They are father or mother from different wines, and they comes from Georgia. 3 of them goes to Europe. 3 sort of Saperavi. They goes to Europe in the different European countries. 1 goes to Persian, and 1 stays until today. These grapes, it's possible just in Georgian. So, and this, all these the French wines and Greek and Italian wines, they are coming from these grapes, you know. But this ground in France, in Italy, in Greek, in Spain, in different countries, you know, the ground gives different taste of this wine. And of course, they are great. Chateau Margaux or Ducam or something, you know, that I cannot now say all these great French or Italian or Spain or Greek wines, you know, but they are great but the mother of them comes from Georgia. That's it. So now it was a one question, yeah?
My
The
question.
second one was
Second question is, my question is, the other day I watched the film Chef in Love. It was a excellently crafted movie. One of the things is that the films from former Soviet republics give us a different picture of altogether different picture against the official narrative and version. Anyway, the Pascal, I would like to know more about how is it that a French cook settles in Georgia, Pascal, and there is a particular satirical scene in the movie when the Red Army and the commissars, after eating the food, they are shitting on their way back. They are shitting out, and by having stomach problem, they shit out on the ground. It was a brilliant sort of satire that you employed.
But it was a real story.
It was a real story.
Yeah.
I think that your film is replete with a sort of culinary or recipe realism. I would say that it is a culinary and recipe realism. I think you got what I said.
Culinary is related to food.
Okay. Culinary.
Culinary and recipe realism as against the propaganda of Red Army. And I would like to know more about Pascal, and as well as I think that Stalin was by birth a Georgian.
Yeah.
I'm
very sorry.
Anyway, I would like to know. Your film, in fact, negotiates Pascal against another Georgian, Stalin.
It's not a Pascal. It's just, yet I make this film, I try to tell a very dramatical, tragical time and story from Georgia with humor. And it's not a Pascal. Why? The Red Army comes to Georgia, and I just give you one small example. They come, for example, they read, in this family, they are a royal family, all the family, all the people, children, all the generation of this family, there are something around, for example, 120 people, yeah? All must killed immediately. So, this is a good family, they are rich, okay, all must killed. You know, they come to independent Georgia, it was a rich, intelligent, free, democratic country. And the Red Army comes and they killed, they sent a telegram to Moscow, to Lenin. The 90% of intelligence, clever intelligence, people,
intellectuals
are killed. Country is free from this, excuse me, shit. They call them these intellectuals like shit. Excuse me for this word, but it was written. And the telegram from Moscow comes. Haha, you have a 10%? It's too much. Bring for 3. Kill more. So I can say you, we don't have a family without this tragical past in Georgia. We don't have a family. Excuse me, it's not Pascal. It's our reality. I just try to tell the stories in a very light colors, with humor, about our tragedy, my country. It's not only my country was in the same situation. Mostly of 15 republics was in the same situation, more or less. But Stalin was from Georgian. He liked the, you know, he wants to be a leader of this party, and he thinks if I kill more Georgians in my country, I became a more, I will have a more
Russian
passion. Yes. And the Georgian war is in a terrible situation. He cut Georgia, this small country, on the autonomian republics. They have not, nobody understand why, but because he says this country must be exist anymore. And this autonomic until today, it's like a bomb in my country. Why? The Russian occupied 30% of our territories. Until today, it's like this. And we are in the war all the day, and the tanks, the Russian, they won't bring back Soviet Union and Soviet system. And the tanks are staying in a 25-30 kilometers from our capital city, Tbilisi. And we are waiting every moment. They are coming to kill us. It's not satire. It's a reality, our reality until today. So, thank you for question.
Thank you.
Hello?
Excuse me, I didn't hear. Oh. They have so big difficulties. They have so big difficulties until today, you know. And we call this the republics from Middle Asia and Kazakhstan. Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan.
Yes.
And they have own big problems. Why? You know? Because they just what I can say. So, for example, this is Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan, and this is here Uzbekistan, for example. Yeah, you know, after the Soviet Union, after the Red Army comes, they cut. So this belongs to Kazakhstan, this to Kyrgyzstan. They don't really try to make a real border between these countries, these different countries with different culture, history, religions. And until today, they have a problem with each other.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and I have many friends around the Soviet Union, in all the different. The same was with the Baltic republics. Thanks God, they go out quickly, and now they are in the European Union, and nobody can touch them. But all in what's happened in Ukraine, you see, what they are doing with Belarus, what with Georgian, Armenian, with these republics, and Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, and so it's around. They try to bring back Soviet Union, and we don't want it. But you know, they have bombs. We
Yes,
don't have weapons. We don't can be in a war with this huge country, aggressive huge country. So we have the same problem, more or less. Yeah.
Добрый вечер, мам.
Добрый вечер.
Я из Узбекистана.
Очень приятно. I have so many friends in Uzbekistan.
Which one?
Ali Hamraev was
yeah.
was a very good friend of mine. So, and critics, and you know, I have been many times in Uzbekistan.
Tashkent.
Yes, I like your wonderful country.
Yes,
Yes, it's amazing, amazing magic country. Yes.
Mom, can I ask one question?
Yes, of course.
When I was young, child, I watched Fellini's film «Репетиция оркестра».
Yeah.
Оркестр репетиции.
Yes.
Я ничего не понимаю. Still now.
Oh.
I couldn't understand its movie, but I love Fellini.
Yeah.
I watch all films, but only this movie for me it's a little bit problem. If you have, you can explain me if it's possible.
Excuse
Little
me,
bit.
I'm not film critic, but I try to.
Yes, ma'am.
It's my feeling about this
Yes,
film,
yes.
you know. It's maybe not a professional analysis for this film, but it's dirigent and orchestra.
Yes.
And you know, the orchestra wants to be independent and wants to play without dirigent. And dirigent, it's just a very primitive and very strange, yeah? Not about nuance in the film. And the dirigent goes out, and this orchestra, it's alone, and they tries to make music, and it's a cacophonica. They make, and without. I mean, it's about the leader. It's about really the person. He has a wonderful, not a dirigent, it's has a universal hearing, yeah, but every country, every culture, every nationality needs a really very sensitive, very intelligent, intellectual, and with wonderful, really hearing and thinking leader person. He brings, because until the end there comes this big bulk like our planet, yes, breaks the wall, and the planet, like every country, every nationality needs really very intelligent, in this moment music lover, but culture lover, country lover, and very clever leader that brings the country and people together to make a wonderful music. It was my feeling from this film. The music, I mean life from any countries. This is what I'm thinking about this film.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you for a question.
Then we can have one last question.
Ma'am, my question to you is, when will Europe catch up economically? Though from 2008 we had the world financial crisis and all fallen, others have gone up. And I am myself a research analyst on economics and finance and well-being of people. The only country which I see scanned, which has progress, would be Poland. And Estonia was okay, but now they are slowly dipping down. When would you feel most of these European countries would get back to their good glory days of the olden days?
Excuse me, I'm not political.
But for the well-being of the people of the country.
You know, I'm very far from politics. But, and I cannot say about future of any countries in European Union because, excuse me, but I really didn't see a really big person, political person in the world. I'm so sorry. But I don't know what they have in mind, what they are thinking about, how they sell the countries, how they cut their
Territories.
What? Territories, or, you know, I don't know, and I really don't understand what they want. But I have a feeling, I'm afraid, they need to, after the Second World War, the world became new borders. And I'm very worried about this now. The world became also the big, different, and they changed, they want to change the border, but I don't know what's happened. I'm just afraid, and I'm just looking for, and I hope we will be still, our countries will be still in the life after some these difficult times. I don't know. I'm so sorry.
But what are your memories with Federico Fellini, the Italian director, the Cannes? That Cannes Film Festival, you met with Federico Fellini, the Italian director. What are your memories on Fellini?
At first, I have been on his shooting place. He was shooting Ginger and Fred. And I have been one day on his shooting, and it was a firework, like a fountain of ideas, and you know, the crew was love him, and he was all the time joking, and so okay. and mostly with Marcello Mastroianni, these great actors. And after we meet in a Cannes, and I ask a friend of mine, it was he's now the programmer in a Cannes, and I say him, Fellini's here, please, maybe we have a 5 minutes possibility to meet him. It's my so, and they say me it's okay. We have these 5 minutes. We have a 40 minutes conversation. We are sitting, and I know absolutely. I know it was a journey. I have been close to this journey because every his sentence, every his word, every his thinking was so extraordinary, so original, and so out of some banalism and banal thinking, But he was very sick, but anyway full of humor. And this portrait that he painted me, it's so full of humor, it's so funny. And during this conversation, I don't know what he was doing. During this conversation, he was sitting like this, and was something. I don't know what he was doing. I was close. And after he gives me my crazy portrait, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. In my life, I meet. It was not the first time, but one of meeting the Genies. It was this meeting in Cannes with Federico Fellini. Yeah.
I think that's time. Thank you, Nana, for joining us.
Thank you very much to be here, and thank you very much.
We hope you're enjoying the 29th IFFK, watching all the films. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.